At first, it used to be the Niger Delta Development Commission, which emerged as a special purpose vehicle targeted at bringing governance closer to the people of the oil-rich region. NDDC was late President Umaru Yar'Adua's vehicle for the establishment of the amnesty program, which eventually defeated militancy in the region and opened doors of opportunity for thousands of those who accepted to lay down their arms. Under former President Muhammadu Buhari, a Northeast Development Commission was created, while in February 2024, the Senate passed a bill for the establishment of a Southeast Development Commission. Now, in what ways can the cause of development be truly served by these commissions? We are now being joined by Dr. Sam Amadi, Director, Abuja School of Social and Political Thoughts. Good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.
Thank you, Hawa, and thank you very much.
Well, it's Hawa and Temitokwe, Dr. Amadi. So now we know that...
And Temitokwe, I missed that. Thank you.
No problem. Now,
I'm very sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's fine. So what are your thoughts, on the Senate's passage of the bill seeking to establish more commissions? We know that they recently passed a bill to establish the Northwest Development Commission. How useful, really, are these regional development commissions?
Well, I think we have to step back first and understand that these commissions differ. The Niger Delta Development Commission has clarity in terms of its origin and statutory, nature. First, we've had the UNPADEC, and they all came from the 1958 Wilderness Commission, that part of the agitation of the minorities before independence in 1957. And then, of course, in 1958, Williams Commission came out with a report. Apart from highlighting the need for the fundamental right as we have it today, and talking about special representation in Parliament, they talked about a special commission for vulnerable areas, especially the Niger Delta, and that led to the first Niger Delta agency. We had UNPADEC and now NDDC. So it has a special life, a history, and a clear mandate to deal with special intervention for the Niger Delta. But the other commissions, if you look at even the 1960s, we used to have the Eastern Nigeria Development Corporation that Emma Okpara set up, that drove development of the south of Eastern Nigeria, then Eastern Nigeria, part of Southeast, and some part of South today. That became the fastest growing economy. We had the Western Nigeria Development Corporation, and today we now have DAWN, what we call Development Agenda for Western Nigeria, which is more like a voluntary platform for Western, Southwest states to come together to create policies and convergences for development. It's not created by the federal government, but part of a collaboration of Western states, Southwest states. So the Eastern Nigerian Development Corporation was a driver of Okpara's developmental state concept. He had the Northern Nigeria Development Commission, which much of Northern Nigeria development came from it. So those regional development platforms were actually developmental in that they were seen as pilot agencies to drive development. Most of the things Okpara are achieved as in terms of edification, agriculture, movement towards industrialization with the MNA motor concept, the Onitsha, super commercial nav, Amadi. We are well thought out, structurally developed plans to industrialize Eastern Nigeria. And they borrowed a lot from the East Asian example with MITI in Japan, the Ministry of International Trade and Investment. And of course, if you go to Korea, China, you have those pilot agencies. Now, this modern development commission that the Senate is creating is a mockery of that concept. Why? Because they're not the pilot agency to put together the whole structure of government. So if you have that kind of a development commission, then they will coordinate interventions around ministries, trade, investment, everything, human capital development. But these are like isolated interventionist agencies. The Northeast Development Commission is not really coordinating any development at the scale in Northeast. It's basically looking at insurgencies, maybe dealing with some emergency with outcome of the insurgents and the terrorism and banditry in the Northeast. Not really catalyzing transformation in Northeast. So this is a mockery of the so-called, the old, in the Second Republic, First Republic, regional-based development commission. Again, the Southeast only is worrisome. The Southeast Governors Forum under Hope Uzodimma put together a Southeast Summit, and I was co-chair. I was actually the chair of the regional subcommittee on regional integration. And part of what we did in that was to create a real Southeast-driven regional integration platform, which, for example, infrastructure, look at the issue around power. So many of the, Enugu State has got its own regulatory commission. Anambra is working on one. I hope that Imo has signed off its own electricity commission. Those are small markets that can't thrive. So the idea was, if you had created an Eastern Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission at a scale where the governors themselves, while maintaining their individual state autonomy, converge and create a platform to structure infrastructure at a regional basis. That's really the kind of thing you should be expecting for those, regional commissions. So I don't think it should be created by the federal government. I think these are what the states should come together and create regional platforms, because the integration is the way to go in terms of markets, in terms of infrastructure development, in terms of even human development, so that you synergize and create convergence that enable states to take advantage and also drive down in their own states. So I think that there are two different conversations going on here. What we have had in mind for the Southeast is an autonomous, regional platform that creates capacity to warehouse competencies to develop infrastructure development at a regional scale, so that those regional infrastructure will dovetail to state action. So state interventions, we kind of build up to a regional platform, because these are contiguous markets that could be actually one market. The same for Southwest, where you have development agenda for Southwest. So it creates robust integration among Southwestern states that will help them to deepen development and scale up. So this is what the federal government creates, and maybe some budgetary intervention, and maybe some bureaucracy, and some bureaucrats and politicians get things for themselves. That's not the concept of development commissions that we had, something close to that in the First Republic, with great results in terms of economic development.
Well, Dr. Amadi, what do you make of the Senate passing the Northwest Development Commission and passing them in order to address some of the challenges of the Northwest? This is a new agency. What do you make of this?
Mm-hmm. I think the same problem. I mean, tokenism. You address problems, okay, fine. I mean, Northwest has problem with its security, banditry and all that. Okay, we create a commission here in Abuja to address that. We create some bureaucrats, we put some budgets, and then, and that's the end of it. What I think they should be doing, and without looking at the details of that act, is that we should get back, if we really want to address these problems holistically, we should get back to some regional framework which the governors themselves, the states themselves, can come together and create this process and drive the process. The federal government cannot create regional commissions when the federal government has no regional mandate. I mean, the federal government has federal mandate, and then instead of intervening piecemeal, maybe they now say, okay, that's insecurity is a phenomenon we can see in the Northwest. So we can now drive our security interventions in the Northwest through this commission. But the experience with the Northeast Commission does not give much hope that this is going to play a key role. If you look at various interventions in terms of security, whether it's in terms of economic development in the Northeast, they are not channeled mostly through the Development Commission. So that Development Commission becomes peripheral to the whole gamut of governance. But really, how these commissions worked in the First Republic, and how they could work now, is that they are central to development, to security, to economic development. And in the concept of human development, both the economic side and the security side come together, because essentially the economic failures also drive and reinforce the insecurity crisis. So I would argue that, look, let's be very, very intentional here and learn from China and learn from the East Asians. Learn how you can drive development as intentional strategic action, and then create a platform that has the competencies that you need to coordinate various interventions. Think, for example, education and healthcare. They build back into productivity, into economic growth. They also build back into security. So the notion of this commission, actually, from a developmental state perspective, is a concept that development is planned. And because it's planned, if you have a platform, a pilot agency that has responsibility for the planning, you entrench coherence, and then there's better coordination. So even though later on different institutions, department of government will drive aspects of that, but because they are coordinated and planned, you have a better reinforcement. So each action reinforces, builds into a bigger picture of development. So if we are intervening in health, we keep an eye that the health interventions are also aligning with intervention in education, aligning with intervention in small and medium enterprises that will grow the economy, that will help to deal with the insecurity. And then the kinetic action of national security is also aligning. So the notion here will be get a commission that will sit on top of all this and create central planning and allow different groups. Now, that will require significant change to the structure of governance at the various states. So that's why I think that these federalized National Assembly created regional commissions are not going to be effective because the linkages with state institutions are weak or non-existent. And if you don't have those linkages, they cannot have the level of developmental outcomes that you expect from those. So the Northwest Development Commission would require a lot more blending with the structure of governance in the Northwestern states to be effective in transforming security and human development in the Northwestern states.
Now, Dr. Sam Amadi, I'm also wondering, are we not replicating, or shall I say duplicating the efforts, with this commission? What really is the role of government at all levels if the commission are supposed to be the developmental force for the region? Is it an admission or is it an indication, that government has failed?
I think it's, like you said, it's a duplication, yes. And again, it shows the tokenism, I use that word, of, we set up something, we had NDDC, whose case is very clear what it's supposed to do. They will need to replicate with it Northeastern. Then Southeast people agitate for marginalization, we give them one. Now, okay, we now have to give to also Northwest, and then maybe later North Central, then Southwest. Now, that is a clear case of institutional development without, justification. And I agree that, look, we have local government, state government, and federal government. The question then is, what would this Southeast or Northeast or North Central or Northwest Development Commission be doing different? Now, if you recall what I said about the 1960s, we had regional government, and this regional government created these commissions to drive development, which is under the supervision of the premier and the legislative institutions in those regions. So that is organic, it's structured, it has clear relationship with the authorities in the region, and had clear development mandates and outcomes measurable. Now, this one you create in Abuja, and then they are supposedly developing 5-6 states in the Northwest without any structured link in terms of law, in terms of institution with those states. So basically, this is, you're going to spend government money to drop some development on top of the state structure that's not going to be, they have no roots, that's not going to be measurable, and it's not something that will be effective. So you're right that this is like duplication. And I said the motive is here that because Buhari set up the Northeast Development Commission for the purpose of dealing with some degree of international assistance, aids coming in, during because of the crisis in that region, and then Southeast has argument around marginalization. They set up Southeast, so we keep on replicating these tokenistic responses to problem. But really, what we have to deal with now is real restructuring. If states stay, then the states themselves should be the center for. It should be two-layered, federal and states. The federal government has clear constitutional job to do. The states have clear work to do. Then these states can come together and create a regional-based commission whose responsibility is to coordinate their various interventions on clearly defined issues. One of them will be security. I mean, in the Southeast, it's no brainer to know that you can't solve the insecurity crisis without looking at the regional scope. The borders between Anambra, Imo, it doesn't exist. So whatever happens in Olo is going to affect Anambra. That creates the need for a regional security, platform. But this will be states themselves agreeing and creating protocols so that state actions themselves align with that regional action. So what the states are doing is that they are enabling themselves, increasing their capability by dealing at the regional scope, so that the problems themselves are regional and they're addressed at that level. It shouldn't be the federal government creating this development commission. It should actually be those states themselves coming together and converging their resources and planning. And therefore, when they have the development commission's agenda, it gets detailed down and aligned to state action. So, for example, you have states have their Ministry of Security, Homeland Security, for example, in the Southeast, and then they're working with the Southeast Security Regional Security Platform Commission. And then they have the dashboard. They understand various hotspots and they align their responses in a way that it builds together into a platform, into a scale. So that's how to go about it. So I think that minus the Niger Delta Development Commission, whose case is very clear and explicit, you're dealing with a defined intervention platform. Then the rest of them don't seem to have sufficient logic to exist. We can make a case for the Northeast that it's actually part of the international development, assistance, and then maybe the federal government uses that to put together coherence around the interventions that are coming from international assistance. But apart from that, I don't think they have useful purpose, because the nature of the state structure we are running, the federalism requires that actions that are going to border on the states will have to be state-based, and the states can then create this structure that have their governance. So the board will be a board made up of various representatives of the various states. So the decisions made at the level of those commissions are decisions that are legitimate and easily translatable to actions at the various states. That's the way to have coherence.
Right. Dr. Sam Amadi, it's always great to have you on Newsday. Thank you so much for having this conversation with us this afternoon.